Divine mantras. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajya Kacharya Varyas Tathar Sarashishi Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajya Kacharya Varyas Tathar Sarashishi Mad Srila Bhakti Rakak Srila Sridhar Maharaj Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajya Kacharya Varyas Tathar Sarashishi Mad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rupanavu Guru Paruki Ki Jai. Sabashara Shina Chalana Prabhu Ki Jai. Sabashara Shima Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah, we were reflecting last on Tuesday, isn't it, with the nature of how sound of these masters and their pictures, it's all connected. It's all of an absolute nature. So what we meditate on, we become acquainted with. What we look at, what we allow into our consciousness, we have some type of relation with that. So relationship with the masters, with the holy things, will make us holy. Relationship with the unholy will make us unholy. It's quite clear, isn't it? You take on the qualities of those you associate with, either as persons or doctrine or conception. Hare Krishna.
I love hearing you talk about that, Maharaj. It's so useful and applicable to our lives. I mean, not everything you share is, but particularly enjoy that topic.
Yeah, like the receiver, the channel, the receiver. And Stephen, have I met you before? Do you prefer to be called Steve or Stephen?
Are you muted, Stephen? Oh.
I'm not sure, Stephen, your mic might be either muted or not working. Do you want to try again?
You can just jump in whenever the connection's good, bro. We're glad you're here. So Maharaj, we're on page 58, Bhagavad Gita as it is, in chapter 1, 58, page 58 of the photocopy, but 87 of the PDF.
Yeah, and text number?
32 to 35.
32, great. It is quite nice, like in that first chapter, Prabhupada's purports, because it is sort of lots of personalities and, excuse me, the history and the relationships and the cousins and the brothers. The purports help to sort of break it up a little. Did you say text 31 to 33?
Actually, 32 to 35.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if you see at the top left corner of the page, it should be page 58 on the photocopy, but 87 on the PDF, according to my one anyway. Does anyone want to volunteer to read first?
$32 to $35. That must be you, Jenna, with the pause.
Well, I see Dale. Yeah, Dale's unmuted.
Dale, he's ready to roll. Yay.
Okay. All right. Text 32 to 35. Okay. Kim no Rajena Govinda Kim Bogair Jivitenava Yasham Ate Kankshitam no Rajyam Bogaha Sukhani Cha Ta ime Vastita Yude Pranams Tyaktva Danani Cha Acharya Pitaraha Putras Tataiva Cha Pitamaha Matulaha Tvasaha Pautra Syalah Sambandinas Tata Itana Hantum Ichami Nato pi Madhusudana api Trilokya Rajyasya Heto Kimnu Mahi Kirti Nihatya Darta Rastran Naha Kapriti Sya Janardana. O Govinda, of what avail to us are kingdoms, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed in this battlefield? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and all relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, then why should I wish to kill them, though I may survive? O maintainer of all creatures, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. Purport. Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures. By using this sign indicates what will satisfy his senses. Although Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses, if we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely, when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. Everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives, but Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed in the battlefield, and he will be unable to share his opulence after victory. This is a typical calculation of material life. The transcendental life is, however, different. Since a devotee wants to satisfy the desires of the Lord, he can, Lord willing, accept all kinds of opulence for the service of the Lord, and if the Lord is not willing, he should not accept a farthing. Arjuna did not want to kill his relatives, and if there were any need to kill them, he desired that Krishna kill them personally. At this point, he did not know that Krishna had already killed them before their coming into the battlefield, and that he was only to become an instrument for Krishna. This fact is disclosed in following chapters. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them.
Yeah, so just a little overview, because the word kill and killed and death, and it's all very macabre. Has who was it? The anyway, is it Oscar Wilde, the famous actor that played that part in all the macabre films? I think it was. Is it Oscar Wilde? No. Anyway, so how to sort of harmonize the conception of killing around the supreme entity. See, one aspect of the divine system within the matrix is Yamaraj or Dhammaraj is the Lord of Death. So death is a natural process within the living entity's cycle within, sansar. Sansar means the cycle of birth and death. So the movement of the karmic play of transitory, temporary, and reaction, death is a natural part of that cycle. So death comes to us all anyways. Once we're born, we're bound to die. But in this particular case, the being killed on that battlefield was a benediction for the soldiers, because they were acting as miscreants. But it's true that by their departure on that battlefield, with Krishna being present, all the enemy attained liberation. So what appeared to be something horrific or negative was a part of cleaning up the planet. So in the same way, when the CIA or the FBI, they have a case, like they're going after someone high up in the mob, they'll allow the person to continue, and they wait for the rap sheet to increase. And then when they do capture, they put the person down for life. So we see that the Kauravas, those who are sort of acting in opposition to the higher or to the path of the holy elevation of others, it appears that they're allowed to sort of move, and they're empowered to wander and do so many things. But ultimately, the hand of fate, the hand of karma will come to capture. So what's being expressed here is that Arjuna is the instrument for that. So his nature as a warrior and also as a devotee of Krishna is that he's being chosen to take out those who are anti-God or anti-guru, anti-Christ. So this is part of the phenomena. So the Maya Shakti, or within the material system, that's going on anyway, death. But it just happened that with it happening in front of the Supreme, it also is beneficial for the living entities that are leaving their bodies in the presence.
So are you saying that it's actually a positive thing even for the miscreants?
In this particular case, yeah. They're very fortunate that they happen to be they're expressing their sort of anti-nature, but in the presence of the Supreme, they'll be liberated. That may even come up actually later in the texts.
And Maharaj, by liberated, does that mean like into the Brahma Jyoti, or like?
Yeah, into the Brahma Jyoti, yeah. Arjuna, no. Arjuna, he won't. For devotees, they won't be going to the Brahma Jyoti, because the devotional aptitude and nature has come. So the Brahma Jyoti is freedom from the cycle of birth and death. So even the demons, the asuras, are attracted to the Brahma Jyoti conception, because that's the cessation, that's like the deep sleep. But still, it's freedom from the negative, but not any attainment in the positive. Yes, always you see the soul, bhakti, mukti, and then bhakti. So those three themes. Yeah, and so what you'll see is bhakti and mukti all religious thought will come under those two categories. That's why it's often discussed, this bhakti, the material exploitative system, and mukti and bhakti. So generally you'll find any type of spiritual conception anywhere, ever, will fall under two basic categories, mukti and bhakti. Which is like, really? Yep. Name anything, express anything. You'll give yourself away within the first between 10 to 40 seconds. It'll be ascertained whether this is now moving toward the personal school or the impersonal in regard to transcendentalism.
Could you please give us an example, Maharaj? Like if we were talking about Christianity.
You could say the followers of Sai Baba, say, or Islam, or let's take Gangaji, or let's Muji. Let's take someone like so modern day Buddhism. Let's say Maharishi Yogi. Yeah, so many examples like doctrine, even say, you could say the path of the Sufi, where does it end? Generally, always, it'll fall into either category, impersonal or personal. Christianity, to some, depending on the denomination, but predominant impersonal. So, because what happens is that the doctrine will reveal the destination or the attraction of the soul to a particular destination, or the particular doctrine or revelation or communion of some type of theistic or esoteric wisdom. It doesn't, it talks about liberation or entering the light or attaining God, but no specific detail of the personality. So this is one of the incredible things of Veda, is that everything is sort of tagged and ascertained within the Vedic. So anything that comes up against the Veda can be ascertained where it's at in its stage.
So someone like Muji, is it just that he hasn't potentially gone past that mukti kind of conception of just oneness, liberation, transcendence, but not really, I don't know much about his teachings, but maybe not so much discussing God and the traits of God, but he's kind of got a Vedic mood, right?
Yes, something, because you'll find that they derive something from Shankaracharya, Muktananda. So there's two types of impersonalists, fixed and non-fixed. The fixed generally have some sort of doctrine that they subscribe to. And then there are, the Gangajis, Mujis, and also the Adida Frijon, the Laughing Man. Do you remember in the 70s, the Dark Horse publications? Babada Frijon was another. He was connected with Muktananda from the 70s. They sometimes are non-fixed, which means that they align to the impersonal doctrine, but they don't have a specific shastric reference. So they can sometimes be shifted from that impersonal conception to the personal, or that the infinite can be impersonal and personal. So when there's a doctrine, like Shankaracharya's doctrine, it's locked to no. God can never be person. Person means that which is, personality is cooked up, or it's something only in the conditioned state. So they're locked by their doctrine. So there's the fixed and non-fixed impersonalists. So Christianity is basic Vaishnavism, but it tends to hint, like it mentions Father, but no specific. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, when we were reading The Search for Sri Krishna Reality, the Beautiful, he said, at best it seems that the Holy Spirit conception has the highest position amongst them. And the Guru position is accepted by some but rejected by others, because you see, like the Judaic aspect of Christianity rejects Christ as the Guru. They say there are many. In some ways that's true, there are many. So yeah, fixed, non-fixed, within the impersonal, and then of course the personal schools. And the personal schools are also divided because Vishnu, Vaishnava, Vaikuntha conception, Ayodhya conception. Vaikuntha is the awe and reverence, so Santa Dasya. So even in personalism, there's different types of ilk stage as well.
Thanks for clarifying.
So even though this is presented and it enters our intellect, it will be revealed in time. But not only is it philosophically presented to us through the books and the understanding, but if you look at the world and all its pursuance of the esoteric, it clearly falls into these two categories. You can detect it. So it gives weight to the Veda. It gives more weight to the Veda. Like, oh my God, it's clear. There isn't a third option. The Veda goes, there's two options. And then if you study comprehensively everything, it will fall into some doctrine promoting higher planetary systems or the impersonal or personal. So the third option is something that is maybe considered spiritual, but it's actually higher material level, which is higher planetary system doctrine, like the path of the ancestors. Like if you say, the Navajo say, oh, we worship the ancestors, we're going to the spiritual realm of the ancestors. That word spiritual can't be used. It's the subtle material that you're going to. Yeah. Amazing. But more amazing when it becomes a living, breathing, dynamic. It becomes realized. But it will become realized by divine grace. And this is where we spoke last week about, on Tuesday, about it becomes realized through the service, through the grace. So, yeah, by serving the higher will reveal. The intellect won't be allowed entrance. But the intellect will maybe know something of this, but it's only through the service that it will fully be. So in other words, the brochure will go from being a brochure to actually the real place revealed through the service. The brochure will now become the destination. It'll become living. The pages will become alive. Because you'll be at the place of the brochure. Yeah.
Maharaj, I hope not to be dragging out this topic, but I just wonder why, for some cultures and their respective religions and philosophies, why they don't have that full access to bhakti, whether it has a different name for them or not. Like, I wonder why in some parts of the world, like, it's like a restricted or limited thing when it is such an unlimited actual like concept in it. Yeah, like the Native Americans, like,
yeah,
or anybody. It's like,
because
how come they don't?
Yeah. Well, see, we honor, because we're not. See, this is the thing. How Vedanta or how the Veda is worded and presented. We don't want to be sort of superior. We don't want to present with the notion of a superiority complex. But so we honor, because when we analyze their doctrine or what they hold in, what's handed down from great grandfathers and the oral, the stories of old, we find that it has some connection with Veda, but because of time and because of separation from India and the original Vedic culture, it's become diluted or mutated and lost some of its sort of founding fundamentals. So it has something of the remnants of the Vedic conception. So something of the higher, the great eagle, the higher. So this is when, if you ask theologians who study theism, they can see the connections, but then they would also ascertain, yes, it was originally there, but it became gradually over generations lost. In the same way, we know that the nature of the Maya and the local exploitative environment will break down the wisdom, the tendency for imitationism or dilution or moving away from the original, authentic and integral path becomes inevitable. It is there in the Vedic as well, but because the Veda is a written doctrine, and also it's very heavily practiced. It wasn't mutated or diluted like many other cultures. But Bhakti is there, but just general. In a very sort of maybe abstract way. Like to know God, to be aware of, Creator, to be aware of Source. But Bhakti is now service, and who is Source and who is the divine. It's there. It wasn't contaminated or interfered with. So that's our great fortune, because so we're going back. So India holds the source of that great wisdom. So under the theory that the earth was under one landmass, and Yudhisthira, Bharat Maharaj ruled the world, and then later the continents broke at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, then the Vedic culture, which was everywhere, now became diluted and gradually became lost to various degrees. And we even see in language, there is some connection within every language of some Vedic terms in every language. That's interesting as well. And some of the indigenous traditions you see in Vedic tradition. So the connection is clear. It's just, that the nature of time and the division of all languages and peoples scattering. They lost that connection to some degree.
And that's in the first part of the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it, Maharaj? Where Krishna says to Arjuna, he spoke this knowledge to the sun god, and then, but over time it was lost, something like.
Yeah, gradually it became lost due to it's called the innervating nature. Innervating means the absorption and the influence of the shadow, the influence of Kali Yuga gets lost and broken. It's just like now, if we all decided to not see each other anymore, no more book clubs, no more mention of the Mahamantra, no more Gurudev, no more Bhagavad Gita, and then we all just went back to whatever we were doing before. After a couple of years of just going back to what we knew before, this would all be quite alien to us, maybe after some time. So even we can have that experience even while in this life. Some sadhakas do. I sort of hung out with the Haris sort of when I was 17 to 20, and I'm in my 40s now. Yeah, there's some sort of mantras they were chanting. I remember something. Because the innervating nature, another wave took that particular sadhaka in another direction. And so it's a distant memory. Some mantras, and I was a vegetarian back then for a while. Yeah. So that can happen to an entire culture over time. Your dilution may take 10, 15, 20, 30 years. So imagine 200 years, 2 generations, 5 generations, 10 generations, this type of dilution. But we pray, obviously, that we don't get diluted and we don't become washed into the matrix again, so to speak. That's the hope, by divine grace. Somehow or other we, Lord, keep me. Keep me close. Keep me connected. Keep reminding me always the great prospect. So Dale, you remind me, I'll remind you. Jenna, you remind me, I'll remind you. Siddhishan, Stephen, Rohit, Anam. The reminding each other of the great potential, the great prospect, the great everything. Yeah.
That was a fun detour. Shall I read text 36 for us? Is that all right, Dale?
Yes, please.
Okay, thanks, Anam. All right, text 36. Papam evashrayed asman hatvaitan atatayanaha tasman narha vayam hantum dartarastran svabandhavan svajanam hi katam hatva sukhinaha srayam madhava. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune? And how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? Purport says, according to Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors. 1, a poison giver. 2, one who sets fire to the house. 3, one who attacks with deadly weapons. 4, one who plunders riches. 5, one who occupies another's land. And 6, one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting for any ordinary man. What does befitting mean, guys? I don't know this word.
Befitting is it's natural, befitting, natural.
Okay.
A natural course of one thing I would say, this of course was back in the Vedic times. Obviously this is not we can't be referencing this now, of course.
Yeah, no problem. Understandable. Okay. So such killing of aggressors is quite befitting for any ordinary man, but Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for Kshatriya. Although, what does this word mean? Sorry?
Kshatriya?
Oh, it's Kshatriya.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Kshatriya is like a warrior.
I see. Okay. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Ram was so saintly that people were anxious to live in his kingdom, Ramaraja, against Ram but Lord Ram never showed any cowardice. Ravana was an aggressor against Ram because he kidnapped Rama's wife, Sita. But Lord Ram gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Because of them, Arjuna thought that he should not take the severe steps necessary against ordinary aggressors. Besides that, saintly persons are advised to forgive. Such injunctions for saintly persons are more important than any political emergency. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not, therefore, consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Arjuna's addressing of Krishna as Madhava, or the husband of the goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as husband of the goddess of fortune, he should not have to induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees. Cool. Should we keep moving, or do we want to reflect on this one?
Yeah, no, that's...
Yeah, cool. Text 37 to 38. When a Y is at the end of the word, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah, I mean, from my limited understanding of Sanskrit, so yad yap yete, you sort of,
okay, cool.
you sort of, the Y rolls into the next
Sweet.
word. Yad yap yete napasyante lobha pahata chetashaha kula shaya kritam dosham. Yeah.
Lovely. Would you like to continue that slogan?
Mitra drohi cha chapatakam katam najneyam ashmabihi papad ashman nivartitum kula shaya kritam dosham prapasyadbir janardana.
Beautiful. Translation says, O Janardana, although these men, overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the sin, engage in these acts? I just feel like I might just read that again. O Janardana, although these men, overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, with knowledge of the sin, engage in these acts? So this is Arjuna saying this to Krishna right now.
Yeah.
What does Janardan, what does this name translate to?
Janardan, it's a term, it's another term for Krishna. But it's specifically, we actually have a sannyasi called Janardan Maharaja. I think it's a place of, it's Ashram Raj is the place of shelter. Janardan is, let me just get a literal translation here. Janardan.
It's a lovely name.
Janas were a group of demons living in the ocean. As he killed them, he is called Janardan. Also means birth. He destroys the birth of devotees.
Can I reflect on it?
He gives boons. Janardan is one who gives boons also. But actually, there are multiple explanations for Janardan. There'll be many, which I'm sure Rohit may be able to.
Yeah. So Janardhan is like another name for Krishna, and which means like someone who protect his devotees and give them liberation. That's what this Janardhan means.
Yeah, because Mukti, Mukunda also means one who gives, the Lord who gives liberation, Mukunda. So sometimes these Sanskrit terms, that there'll be similar meanings and similar words. Because Mukunda also means one who gives liberation, Mukti. So Janardan, but I was just looking for the translation. Oh Krishna.
And why is it, Maharaj, that there is so much many different references to different names of Krishna and Arjuna?
Depending, because the different mood or the different nature, or or how he's being referenced. Just like Madhava, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune. If you go back, you'll see in the Sanskrit, Madhusudan, he's known, O killer of the Madhu demon. Govinda, the controller of the senses, and then Gopala, the herder of the cows. Because Krishna has unlimited Leela and quality. So what these are is Nam, Rup, Gun, Leela. The Guna and the Leela and the form. So the form, what type of form Krishna takes. And depending on the qualities that he's engaged in, the name changes. So he has multiple unlimited qualities. So he's known by names that relate to that particular quality.
Cool. Perfect. Okay, the purport says, a Kshatriya is not supposed to refuse to battle or gamble when he is so invited by some rival party. Under such obligation, Arjuna could not refuse to fight because he was challenged by the party of Duryodhana. In this connection, Arjuna considered that the other party might be blind to the effects of such a challenge. Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight. Text 39. Kulakshaye pranashyat shanti. Kuli dharmaha sanatanaha. Dharme nasta kulam kritsnam. Abdharmo adharmo abdharmo bhibhavtyuta. Sorry about that, guys. Translation: with the destruction of dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligious practice. Purport: in the system of the Varnashram institution, there are many principles of religious traditions to help members of the family grow properly and attain spiritual values. The elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. But on the death of the elder members, such family traditions of purification may stop, and the remaining younger family members may develop irreligious habits and thereby lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, for no purpose should the elder members of the family be slain.
Yeah, so this is going into sort of the Manu Samhita, the dharmic influence of elders and how their tradition in maintaining standard and holding space and educating the younger, and then the rituals that are done under Vedic culture, all of that will go out of whack. It'll all go into it'll all go into free fall by the killing. So that can bring some sort of auspiciousness. But this is general. It's not in relation to bhakti. It's in relationship to general Vedic sort of ritual for the afterlife and for sattva and attaining sattva. It's like the Shraddha ceremony, like when in most Hindu families, when the a departed soul leaves, they take the person to the Ganga, and you'll see in India there's like a ceremony of a funeral procession, and then they chant, bolo bolo hari hari, bolo bolo hari hari, and then they take the body to the Ganga and it gets burnt, and then they'll do a Shraddha ceremony. So Gurudev said this is for general Vedic, for followers of the Veda, or and amongst Hindu people they do that. But for those who are dedicated in the Vaishnava tradition, all these things are not so relevant. Mm. Yeah, because of the dedication to Guru Gauranga. Yeah, but still, Arjuna, seeing all the, his cousins and his family members, and the Vedic tradition potentially going to be disturbed by this war, he was concerned. So he was, in this type of reflection, and this is why Prabhupada's giving purport to that, the doubt, because it said he doesn't want to fight. So these are some of the reasons he's coming up with. I can't fight, like the adharma and irreligious action will come as a result. In other words, there'll be ramifications, far-reaching ramification.
Thanks, Maharaj.
Krishna, Hare Krishna. Yeah. Actually, the next verse, Adama Bhagavat Krishna Pradushanti Kalastraya Streshu Disha Shubashnaya Jayate Vanasankara. It's one of my first verses that I learned from the Bhagavad Gita when I was a young man. When a religion is, anyway, you can read that.
Beautiful. Thank you for taking the second. Okay, the translation to text 40 says, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become corrupt, and from the degradation of womanhood, O descendant of Vrishni, comes unwanted progeny. Purport says, good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashram's religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family. By being engaged in various religious practices, women will not be misled into adultery. According to Chanakya Pandit, women are generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So the different family traditions of religious activities should always engage them, and thus their chastity and devotion will give birth to a good population eligible for participating in the Varnashram system. On the failure of such Varnashram dharma, naturally the women become free to act and mix with men, and thus adultery is indulged in at the risk of unwanted population. Irresponsible men also provoke adultery in society, and thus unwanted children flood the human race at the risk of war and pestilence.
Yeah, so these are the defined roles in Vedic culture. So this verse is sort of relaying, because
what does progeny mean, Maharaj? What is
progeny is children being born.
Okay.
Yeah, so back in the day, Vedic culture was very structured and very conservative. Because remember, from the Western perspective, we've been brought up in a liberal sort of, we know what we know, and so that's our perspective. Whereas other traditions and societies, they have their cultures and they have their structure and restraint and procedure and process. But the main point in this is when dharma, or from the Vedic perspective, when that breaks down, the ramifications will move across male, female, mothers, fathers, then to sons and daughters. And so when our dharma, so dharma is the Vedic principle of approach and transcendentalism. So our dharma, the giving up or the movement away, will bring male, female, children, everybody into movement away from the Vedic chance for elevation in consciousness. So like from the Brahminical culture, from strict vegan, vegetarian, and then as you go and into our dharma and move away from that, then of course, yeah, that's when you see the cultures have shifted into eat anything, do anything, say anything, be anything. Yeah, and so some of these points are foreign to us because the relevance, it's not relevant, and because these were bygone, Vedic cultures that were once existing according to different influences. Manu Samhita. So Chanakya Pandit it mentions here, was a Pandit. And so, again, we have to reference that, the point of women are not very intelligent, then that's the materialistic, because in Vedic culture there was the Sudra class and then there was the Brahmin class, so less intelligent male, female, more intelligent male and female. So there was that division. Now, interesting, because Lord Chaitanya came to break the caste system, and he said anyone that turns to the upper will be elevated, despite their position, despite their karma, despite anything. So much so that, when Prabhupada came to the West, it was like everyone can take to Bhakti, despite the particular birth or influence or sanskar or tendency. But in the Vedic culture, back in these days, of course, everything was very structured, and that's what they knew and that's what they followed. Yeah. So our dharma, moving away from dharma, was another aspect that if Arjuna was to fight in this battlefield, many children would not have fathers, and so many things would come. So all these verses are in reference to that, the ramifications of the breakdown. Whereas now in the Kali Yuga, it's all broken down. It doesn't even exist, pretty much. My sister had some, actually no, she didn't have, she has some Indian friends now who she told, when the other day I went for a walk up the mountain, and she said they both come from Brahmin class in India. They're here visiting, but they don't mention, they change their last names, or they don't mention that they're from Brahminical class, because even now in India, that can bring prejudice, which is interesting. Because, the caste system is it's a hierarchical class system based originally on Vedic conception. But in the Kali Yuga, like, everyone can be elevated. It doesn't matter whether you're Sudra class, Brahmin class. So classes were there according to your tendencies. But this is always remember, all these references are to the outer. They're to the physical and subtle systems. They're not in reference to who we really are as spiritual beings. So once you understand that, it appears bias and prejudice to the outer, but to the inner, there is no bias and prejudice, because we're not any of the roles that we play within the theatre. Anyway, of course, these subjects sometimes come up in Prabhupada's books, or in his purports,
That was a great explanation, Maharaj. Thank you. Does anyone want to take over? I'm always happy to read, but you guys have heard me for a few verses now. If anybody would like to take text 41.
I can go on.
Yay. Thanks, Anam.
Nobody else has. For me, I can go on, so I'm like, I should take a back seat sometimes. I love reading.
We love hearing you read.
Okay, thank you. Text 41. Shankaro Narakai Ave Narakayaiva Kulagnanam Kulasya Cha Patanti Pitaro Hayesham Lupta Pindodaka Kriyaha. Translation: when there is increase of unwanted population, a hellish situation is created. both for the family and for those who destroy the family tradition. In such corrupt families, there is no offering of oblations of food and water to the ancestors. According to the rules and regulations of fruitive activities, there is no need to offer periodical food and water to the forefathers of the family. This offering is performed by worship of Vishnu, because eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu can deliver one from all kinds of sinful actions. Sometimes the forefathers may be suffering from various types of sinful reactions, and sometimes some of them cannot even acquire a gross material body and are forced to remain in subtle bodies as ghosts. Thus, when remnants of prasadam, food, are offered to forefathers by descendants, the forefathers are released from ghostly or other kind of miserable life. Such help rendered to forefathers is a family tradition, and those who are not in devotional life are required to perform such rituals. One who is engaged in the devotional life is not required to perform such actions. Simply by performing devotional service, one can deliver hundreds and thousands of forefathers from all kinds of misery. It is stated in the Bhagavatam, Devarshi bhutapta raman pitranam Nakinkaro nayamrni charajan sarvatmana yah sharanam sharanyam gato mukandam paretrya kartam. Anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up to all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So this is where now Prabhupada is coming in, because the essence of all Veda is to bring everyone potentially to that inner state where now the outer subtle and gross body and the roles we play on that materialistic matrix theatre is gradually given up. So there are aspects of Veda that go into the dogma of this is good, this is bad, this is a higher planet. Like if we were to hop in a spaceship and I was to say, now we're heading down to the lower planetary systems, folks. Now these people, they're lower. Someone would go, well, that's not very nice. No, their activities are lower. So when we go down there in the spaceship and we hop out and I say, look, you'll all have to arm up. And it's like, why is that? Because down here, these people will eat you, literally, rakshasa. They'll eat you. They'll hunt you down and want to eat you. So their consciousness is identifying in that particular state of consciousness. So the Veda goes into the definition and the understanding of what's expansive, what's contracted, what's tamasic, what's rajasic, what's sattvic. But ultimately, Veda wants to rinse its hands of all of that and go, let's go to bhakti, let's go to love, the final solution out of duality, out of high, low, everything, and give every being that potential. And so you'll see that always the overview, the analysis can be there sometimes, or Prabhupada will go back in time and express high, low, left, right, blue, black duality, but that's only in relation to the phenomena within the matrix. But who and what we are in potential, the Veda, the higher aspect of Veda wants to just draw that. So you'll see in the writings of Srila Maharaj and Srila Govinda Maharaj, they very rarely deal with what's wrong in the matrix. So today I had a conversation with somebody that said to me, have a look at this book. This Swamiji's written this book. And I went, really? Do I have to hear this today? And anyway, this person said, oh, okay, no, just a couple of pages. Anyway, it was materialist this and materialist that, and this is wrong and that's wrong and this is bad and this is... So it's true, some aspect of Veda goes into that, but it's not the essence of Veda. The essence of Veda is everyone come up and out of the latrine of the material matrix. So there's, a gold latrine and there's a very dirty latrine. But so iron handcuff, silver handcuff, gold handcuff, anywhere within the matrix is still considered contaminating because it's in separation from the Supreme. But the essence of Veda, like you'll see in the teachings of Srila Govinda Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, it's almost like they only show the upward movement to the destination out. So Prabhupada's teachings, he did go into something of criticism and meditation on what's wrong within the system of the matrix. But it's only it's generally given in the initial stages of bhakti, just to extract you from what's wrong. But predominantly it's a positive path where the inspired, or the medicine is now meditated upon, not look at this disease and that disease and look. So if we hopped in that spaceship, why would I take you to the lower planetary systems? Maybe to let you know that if you don't chant and practice and go upward, you might end up coming here to this place. So do you see, the negative also may reinforce the positive, but the real focus is just the positive, folks. And are there realms where humans eat each other? Definitely there are, unfortunately. And someone will go, that's a bit bombastic. That's a terrible thing to say. Well, it used to happen here, folks. It probably is happening here somewhere on this planet. But we're not meditating on those bad things. But we know that these things exist. But our meditation is the higher, the solution out. So just always in context, because it's just so that we get the bearing. And so on the stage or the theatre, many crazy things happen. But our meditation is actually the world outside of the theatre. But occasionally you may have to watch the news and watch the madness, but that's not the focus. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Shall we move to text 42 then?
Please.
Doshe rataha kulagnanam varna shankara karakayah utsadyante jati dharma kula dharmascha shashvatah. Due to the evil deeds of the destroyers of family tradition, all kinds of community projects and family welfare activities are devastated. The four orders of human society, combined with family welfare activities as they are set forth by the institution of the Sanatana Dharma or Varnashrama Dharma, are designed to enable the human being to attain his ultimate salvation. Therefore, the breaking of the Sanatana Dharma tradition by irresponsible leaders of society brings about chaos in that society, and consequently people forget the aim of life, Vishnu. Such leaders are called blind, and persons who follow such leaders are sure to be led into chaos.
So just one interesting point. Someone might say, this is written in the Bhagavad Gita. Are we followers of Varnashram Dham? Sudarshan, you've been on the path nearly a couple of years. Would you say that we are followers of Varnashram Dham?
No.
Yeah, we're not. No. We're followers of Daivi Varnashram Dham. So the general outer aspects of Varnashram Dham. But see, Varnashram Dham wants to take you to freedom and liberation, but you may even still be contaminated with self-interest and so Varnashram Dham is general Vedic rule. But Daivi Varnashram is where it's referenced only in the outer because it will have some bearing, you know, the brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprasanyas. But Mahaprabhu says, I'm not any of these things. So am I working class, administrative class, teacher? No. You see, Varnashram Dharma is what is its Vedic structure for those within the matrix to help them come up. But once you have bhakti, Krishna consciousness, it's a beeline straight to Daivi Varnashram. So it doesn't matter whether you're sweeping the floor, whether you're male, female, old, young, Hindu, Chinese, Mexican, Irish, Italian. If you connect with bhakti, immediately what's relevant and all the dogma of Veda is now washed, is now no longer necessary. General Veda. Because the essence of Veda is to love Krishna. So that's good that you answered that like that, Sudishan. I was a little concerned. I wasn't. I had a feeling that you would get it. This is why... Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Is Prabhupada like promoting Varnashram Dharma? Like,
no.
Yeah, okay.
No, it's so this is interesting because, I mean, not that we're going to get into the conspiracies of, but some actually followers of Prabhupada, in not understanding in context, thought Prabhupada's promoting Varnashram Dharma. No, he's promoting bhakti, but if you identify as Sudra, or you have tendency like Sudra nature is, you know, you like metal, you like wood, you like your mercantile nature, you love business, you love administrative or Kshatriya nature, Kshatriya tendency. You can utilize that in the service, but in of itself, the outer nature, see, bhakti is helping you to develop love through the Maha Mantra. So you may have some reference to your nature to the Daivi Varnashram, to Varna and Ashram. Varna means nature and Ashram, but you may not even fit into the categories of Varna Ashram, but still you can progress. So Srila Maharaj says, whether you're brahmachari, which is student, householder, retired, or an ascetic, or in any other position, go on with bhakti. So when you hear the masters understanding in toto all three, then you get a proper context of Prabhupada's not promoting Varnashram. Or the great, those teachers in the line of Saraswati Thakur, they're saying that it exists on some level, but bhakti, you can start from any position, from any culture, from any place within the theatre, even like as Chandala, like as the Veda says, you are dog eater. So dog eater is considered not very good. Like, I don't know if anyone here has eaten dog, but generally eating dog's not recommended. I don't think in the West we're eating dogs, at least I haven't. But in some countries they do, you know, and that's considered not so good karmically. But from any position, no matter what your sanskar or nature, no matter what the part the role you played within the phenomena, as soon as you come to the essence of Veda, which is bhakti, Krishna consciousness, all of that will quickly have no reference. So in other words, even the dogma of the Veda drops away. Even the rule and regulation of Veda in reference of many Vedic texts are no longer applicable once you come to the essence of Veda, which is serve Sri Guru and Gauranga. So
Bhakti is Paramahamsa Dharma, is that right, Maharaj?
Yes, exactly. So this is what I was coming to next. So yes, a good point. So bhakti is Paramahamsa Dharma. It's not Varnashram Dharma. It's Paramahamsa Dharma, which is just to learn to love God and then love everything in relationship to God, which is everything. So when Mahaprabhu came, he broke the caste system. And this is controversial. So God himself, even though he set up Vana and ashram, he actually says abandon it. Now this is interesting, because there is Vana and ashram explained through the Bhagavad Gita, but at the very essence, the very end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, abandon dharma and surrender to me. So this is interesting. He gives, because general direction for souls that don't want to surrender to Krishna, he gives aspects of Veda to help them. But the essence is, once you love Guru and Gauranga, Krishna, it doesn't matter your position. All of the dogma and don't do this and don't do that, and all the rules and regulations sort of drop away to some greater or lesser degree. Paramahamsa Dharma. So this is where a lot of what comes up sometimes, it's not in reference to the pure path, it's in reference to good and bad within the system of the matrix. But remember, the matrix is not real, and the roles you play in the matrix are also not real. So do you mean some aspects of Veda are for the unreal? Yes. But the real essence of Veda is just love Krishna. Aspects of Veda are there to promote, come out of Tamagun to Rajagun, from Rajagun to Sattva. But Bhakti says, forget all Tama, Raja, Sattva. Just learn to love the flute player. So love loves love. The player playing the played. See, we're beelining straight to the essence of Veda. That's why some of these other references that come up, or that Prabhupada brings up these points, it triggers people, because it's the external or the peripheral aspect of Veda, which goes into this is right, this is high, this is low, this is left, this is right. But ultimately that's the outer, the gross and subtle body. But Paramahamsa Dharma is going straight into the soul. Who are you? You are love. And you're looking for love. So here it is. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So what we're being given here through the path of bhakti is the essence of all Vedic teachings. It's a fact. And even, sannyas and all these things, like even in the ashrams in India, sometimes I'd have strict sannyasis, and they would be, Ashraya, you need to do this, and Ashraya, you need to do that. And I'd just like, whatever, talk to the hand. And Gurudev would watch me behaving with the orthodox like this, and he would laugh, and he'd go, you leave him alone. He doesn't, you follow, he doesn't have to follow. Because he knew they're coming from orthodox Brahmin family or orthodox Hindu family, so they have their perception of what's good and right and left. But Gurudev, he said at the end of the day, he's serving Gurudev. So that all doesn't apply to him. But they wanted me to play this way and that way, and you can't, when you do this and you have to do that rule, and you have to move this way and you have to do that round 4 times before you do the other thing 6 times. I just didn't care for any of it. Gurudev used to laugh. And that's the thing about the West. We don't know anything. But if we know this, to serve Guru and Gauranga, we know everything. Because the essence of everything is to serve Guru Gauranga. So do you see this play between the orthodoxy and the Veda, and then the essence of Veda? So this is why many in the Vedic tradition, they can't work us out, because we're just beelining to Krishna, Radha Krishna, which is the essence. They go, no, you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do that worship, and this ritual, and this ritual. The rituals can go on forever. The Vedas will have you jumping through hoops for lifetimes. But why jump through hoops when the essence is just love loves love?
I guess it's got a lot to do with discipline as well. Like some people have it intrinsically within them, like how I mentioned the intention. For some people it comes naturally, but for some people who are learning that discipline, it really takes a lot of commitment. And these rituals just balance your commitment. Basically, they show you that that's how committed you need to be. Doesn't matter what you say, climb up the tree 20 times. I mean, not that they're going to say that, but it's more like surrender to what you got to do. That's the discipline.
Yes. It's like I had this thought actually when we started, like there is the tradition, right, in Vedic culture to go dandavats. But if I come up and I go, how's it hanging? Which is sometimes I will, because I'll shake up, because if I detect that that's becoming a dogmatic sort of Hari Bol, Hare Krishna, dandavats, it's like bonjour. It's like, hey, what's up? Because see, it's the intention of the consciousness. So all these words, and they can also be turned into a dogma, which will happen, no doubt. And even the acharyas are fully aware of this. Gurudev, he would shake everything up from time to time, because he knew the nature of how dogma and ritual and the outer can start taking precedence, but it's the inner mood. And so these ritual or expressions are really about to carry affection through the sound. But many people can say this and that, but if there's not the spirit behind, it will become a dogma. Like the dogma of how a sannyasi should speak or behave. See, Paramahamsa Dharma is we're just going, we want to adjust into the substance of everything without the form. The form, we have to have some form, right? Like, so I'm drinking, the main thing I'm meditating with this here is the apple cider inside. So many will go, no, but you must drink it in a mug with ceramic and this and that, and people get lost in the details of the outer. I'm only interested what's inside there. As long as that's happening, it matters not whether it's a ceramic cup, glass cup. Anyway, this is the play. So Paramahamsa Dharma is more or less just beelining to the essence. But it's true, like Anam said, some ritual, like for instance, when you see me like this will be like, Guruji, this is how Guruji dresses. But be prepared, because Guruji's a shaker and a mover. And he might like to turn up in a singlet and shorts. But the Orthodox will fully criticize me for that. But I want you to come into an understanding it's the substance. As long as Guruji doesn't wander off back into identifying in the matrix, he can be dressed in a clown suit, it doesn't matter. As long as the connection with the essential is going on. So we want to become essentialists or substantialists, not followers of dogma. Because in other bhakti fields, trust me, they've all gotten lost to some degree into dogma. Haircuts and dresses and styles and ways of approaching and speaking to each other. It's like, anyway, I saw.
Love yous and leave yous all, because Tim's made burgers, vegan burgers. So.
Yes.
But done. Thank you, Maharaj, and everyone.
Yes.
You.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is a really quite an amazing point. It's quite a deep reflection, actually. And I'm aware, because I, having been around so many devotional communities for so many years, I've seen all the external sort of the whistles and the bells and all the things that go on, and I've been trained in all of it. And then I saw Srila Govinda Maharaj. He just beelined into the substance. He never performed ritual, actually. He said rituals for a lower level. That's an audacious statement, no doubt, but it's true. Yeah, because it's consciousness. But if the ritual helps the consciousness, then it has some place. But ultimately, it's still external, because it's the internal consciousness. This is why Mahamantra, chant in the morning, the evening, chant on the beach, chant in your consciousness. It's the intention of consciousness that counts. So we have the language, we have the pranams, and we have the the dress, which no doubt will give some impression, but it's not everything. It's still external. So so love is the essence of Veda. So if the person turns up like this and that and saying this and that, we need to be feeling the love of the higher, and love emanating from that person, and love to other beings. Otherwise, it's all just, it can be another distraction, of course. This one point between substance and form is a big subject. So Arjuna, he's about to come into this awareness himself, because he is getting lost. He's playing the role of getting lost, and, oh my God, I can't kill these people. These are my friends. I know them. And Krishna is saying, no. The essence of what's happening here is my order. I am death. Do your duty. So he's being distracted by the phenomena of the ramifications. But now Krishna will teach him, go into the essential teachings of what's happening here. So this is Paramahamsa Dharma. Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa Dharma means, so on the Bhakti field, if you look at the logo, there's the lotus opening, and the swan is taking the milk and leaving aside the water, Paramahamsa, and looking up to the tilak symbol, which is the essence of service to Krishna. Love loves love. So this is why in the Kali Yuga, it's a very good chance you can come straight into the essence of Veda through Mahamantra. Mahamantra will reveal the essence of all other wisdom. And trust me, there's encyclopedias of wisdom and ritual and practice. So this is why, for those who get connection with Mahamantra, all other yagnas, rituals, processes, which are vast and many, just by chanting Mahamantra, it's you've hit the sort of essential worship in the universe. Simply, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's worth lifetimes of worship, even one Mahamantra. It's true. And even Vedic conception. It's very deep, very deep. So we used to watch Srila Govinda Maharaj, because I was, from the ISKCON movement, and there'd be the classes, and we read this sloka and this, and all this formality. And he didn't do any of it. He did in his earlier years, but then later, because obviously he was of that ilk, caliber. He was now just connecting always with the essence. So that is the object of all the protocol and worship and ritual. He was just living in that wave of love. Even when he was watching the soap opera. So when the Orthodox people would turn up, they wanted to see, Guruji is doing this and that. And he just broke out into some soap operas. We might decide to put on a Lynyrd Skynyrd song or something, who knows? Depends how we feel at the time. To shoo away the formalists. Maybe. Or maybe Neil Young. That'll rock their boats. But there's this play going on everywhere between Veda, general, and Vaishnavism. Substantialism and formality. We're not, the formality's there, but we're not so much interested in it. It's there, but many times, Gurudev with the tilak, sometimes he'd have no tilak. It was all just whatever unfolded. But anyway, this is Paramahamsa Dharma. This is this particular lineage. Even other lineages of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which is Bhakti Yoga, they're very, very orthodox, way more orthodox. So we've hit a lineage that is the most unorthodox. And I think that suits us. Jenna, what do you think?
Yeah, there's a reason why we're all attracted to each other.
Exactly.
To this.
Yeah, because for me, even my god brothers, they hold on to some, and I'm, even like the dandavats on the ground and everything, sometimes I take my hand and just touch the floor, and I was never attracted to all the, but Gurudev said the service is the connector. Because service is the action of that love. If that's there, then many, many things that others are doing can be dismissed because of that attachment. I don't know. And he said it's something in the West. The West, we're very, free-flowing, freelance. So this style of bhakti, it suits us actually. But we still honor those in the orthodox and the ritual. We honor, but from a distance, from a distance. We never dishonor because it is connected with Vishnu and Krishna, general. So we honor it, but it's not for us. It's a fact. So even, Dandavats and Hare Krishna. So if it's like, hey, how's it going? If there's affection there, we accept that also. We can't get lost in this dogma. It will come up. So many societies, so many traditions have lost themselves in that and forgotten the essence, the affection. See, we know this from Veda because even Brahma was offering prayers and Krishna's like, he just wants a hug and then he wants to run off and play. And eventually that was expressed to him. And he went, oh, you're sorry for ranting and raving. I should have just sent my love and let you carry on. That was even though, Brahma is the head guru. So it's like, yeah. Hare Krishna. We're heading over time, but is that a good place to stop? Do you think it's
okay? Yeah, I highlighted we'll resume at text 43 next week.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a beautiful class.
Yay. Always a pleasure, beautiful souls. And, pace yourself with that packing and loading everything up. And
yes, good luck, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thanks,
thank you for your reading. And Stephen, I haven't said so much to you, but, thank you for listening, and you're always welcome. And hopefully we'll get to communicate more one-on-one. Madhura Nita, have a good rest. Yes.
And keep taking care of yourself, Maharaj. I hope you...
Yeah, I went in the sun.
in.
I lay in the sun for about an hour because the sun is really good for my chest. So I got a little bit roasted on my face today. But yeah, on the good stuff. And yeah, but always my great privilege to be in your company and to be able to reflect all these things. So thank you all so much, your loving hearts, and you're actually helping me. That's the fact be known.
Such a privilege, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
There's lots.
All right, big hugs and lots of love, and yeah, have a good weekend, everybody, and looking forward to catching up next Tuesday.
Yeah.
If
Lots
not
of love
before then, if we feel inspired.
Yeah, see you soon, much sooner.
Yeah. All right, Dandavats, Hare Krishna.
Rest well. Good night, everyone.
Love,
Dandavats,
Rohit,
Hare Krishna.
Dandavats, Stephen, Anand,
Hare Krishna.
Madhura Nita, Hare Krishna.